Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the financial statements of the world's biggest companies, and sometimes, just sometimes, we find out they're not as golden as they seem. Or is it gold? Let's find out. Today we're diving into a filing from i-80 Gold Corp, a company that sounds like it's got a lot of the shiny stuff, and this report basically tells us where they are on their grand plan to become a bigger gold player. This report comes out on July 8th, 2025. So what's the big news? Well, i-80 Gold is giving us an update on their new strategy to develop their gold mining projects in Nevada. Think of it as a progress report for their gold digging ambitions. The company is telling us how they're doing with their plan to get these projects up and running. They've already released initial studies for 5 of their projects earlier this year and are still working on getting permits and ironing out the technical details. Now, i-80 Gold is listed on stock exchanges like NYSE American and the Toronto Stock Exchange under the symbol i-80. It's interesting to note they are calling themselves an emerging growth company, which means they're still in that phase where they're growing and trying to establish themselves. Something important to mention is that they released a press release on July 8th, the same day as this report, to announce these updates. They are filing this press release with the report, which is pretty standard. It's their way of sharing information with everyone at the same time. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what i-80 Gold is actually doing with its Nevada projects. They want to become a mid-tier gold producers, a significant amount of gold, but not the absolute biggest. First up is their Granite Creek underground project. This is actually their first gold operation, and they are working on ramping up to get it producing at a steady pace. They've even developed a special water prediction model to handle underground water, which is a big deal because managing water is crucial in mining. More water comes out, more they have to pump out. They're planning to install more equipment like new wells and a bigger water treatment plant to handle this. They've started drilling more holes at the Granite Creek project, which is good because this drilling is supposed to give them a better idea of how much gold is actually there. This drilling is going to involve over 40 holes and a lot of meters of core. They are also working on a study to figure out how much it will cost to mine the gold here and how much they can make. This study was supposed to finish earlier but got delayed, so now it's expected in the first quarter of 2026. Next, we have the Lone Tree Autoclave Processing Facility. An autoclave is like a special oven used to process certain types of gold ore. They're working with experts to improve their plans for this facility, looking at ways to make it more cost-effective and efficient. The goal is to finish this study by the end of 2025. They're also hiring people to manage this project and make sure everything runs smoothly. The good news here is that the processing facility at Lone Tree already has the necessary permits. They just need a few more for the changes they plan to make as part of the upgrades. This facility is important because it can process the high-grade gold from their underground mines. Now let's talk about the Archimedes underground project. This is their second planned underground mine. They are in the final stages of getting permits for the mining activities above a certain elevation, and they expect to get approval in the third quarter of 2025. Once they get those first permits, they'll immediately start applying for permits for the lower parts of the mine. They've finished building the main surface structures needed to start digging the mine tunnel. They'll begin constructing the underground tunnel soon. They plan to start drilling to find more gold in the upper part of the mine late this year and in the lower part early next year. This is a big drilling program with over 75 holes planned. A full study for this mine is expected by mid-2027, and they hope to start getting gold from Archimedes by late 2026 or early 2027 or early 2026 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 or early 2027. Then there's the Cove Underground project, their third planned underground mine. They finished drilling. The holes needed for their main study is also a little delayed, now expected in the first quarter of 2026. They're also working with the government agency, the Bureau of Land Management, on environmental permits, which would involve a detailed report called an environmental impact statement. They've also beefed up their team specifically for permits, and they're in talks with the people in charge and the local communities. Cove is expected to start contributing to the company's gold production by mid-2029. They also have a Granite Creek open pit project. After releasing an initial assessment earlier this year, they are now working on a more detailed study to figure out if it's worth investing more. They're also looking at different ways to make the project more profitable. Permitting for this one is just starting and everything is moving along as expected. They think this project could start producing gold by the end of the decade. Finally, there's the Mineral Point Open Pit project. This is an earlier stage project, but it has the potential to become their biggest gold producer and significantly boost their overall production. Starting in the second half of 2000, of then mine and process the gold. An initial assessment was released earlier this year, and now they are evaluating when to start the more detailed studies for this project. Now, before we get into my take, it's important to understand the cautionary statement. This is where companies tell you that their future plans and predictions are just that, predictions. They're based on estimates and assumptions that can change. Things like delays in permits, changes in gold prices, or if their drilling doesn't find as much gold as they hoped, can all affect whether these plans actually happen. They are basically saying, this is what we plan to do, but life happens. They specifically mentioned that their plans for ramp-up activities at Granite Creek leading to steady-state production, the dewatering campaign, and the potential use of the Lone Tree autoclave are all forward-looking. They also highlight that Mineral Point becoming their largest producing asset and providing the biggest step change in production relies on future events. It's crucial to remember that these are hopes and expectations, not guarantees. If you want to know all the potential problems, they point you to their annual report where they list out all the risks. This is a common practice, and it's basically them covering their bases by telling investors about anything that could go wrong. This filing also includes a visual of their development plan. It shows a pipeline of projects with anticipated timelines for studies and production. It's a good snapshot of their overall strategy. The notes for this chart are pretty technical, mentioning things like SK1300 and an i-403101. These are basically regulatory frameworks for reporting mineral projects. They also emphasize that these timelines can change based on things like getting permits, finishing technical studies, and securing funding. And lastly, they list out the exhibits that come with this report, the most important one being the press release that details all these updates. Now, let's talk about what this all means. i-80 Gold is clearly in an aggressive growth phase. They have multiple projects at different stages of development, and their strategy hinges on bringing these several projects online over the next few years. The delays mentioned, like the one for the Granite Creek feasibility study, are not uncommon in mining, especially with the complex permitting and technical work involved. The company's success really depends on their ability to execute this multi-project strategy, manage their finances effectively, and secure the necessary approvals from regulators. The mention of being an emerging growth company suggests they might still be building out their core operations and management teams. Their reliance on external studies and collaborations, like with Hatch Limited for the Lone Tree facility, shows they are bringing in outside expertise. A key risk, as they themselves state, is the permitting process. Mining is heavily regulated, and delays or denials of permits can significantly impact timelines and costs. Also, gold prices are a major factor. If gold prices drop, projects that look profitable at higher prices might no longer be viable. The success of their drilling programs in actually finding significant amounts of gold is also critical. If the drilling results are not as good as they hope, it could derail their plans. Looking at the overall picture, i-80 Gold is trying to build a significant gold mining operation from the ground up. The plan is ambitious, covering multiple distinct projects. They have a clear vision of becoming a mid-tier producer, and this report outlines the steps they believe will get them there. The commitment to updating their development plans and studies shows a level of transparency, but also highlights the inherent uncertainties in the mining industry. What's my take? i-80 Gold is taking on a lot, which is exciting, but also carries substantial risk. They're essentially betting on multiple horses at once. Their ability to manage permitting across several projects, secure funding for development, and then efficiently operate these mines will be the real test. The delays, while perhaps minor in the grand scheme, are worth watching. The ultimate success will hinge on whether they can deliver on these often optimistic timelines and whether the gold they're chasing is truly as plentiful and profitable as their studies suggest. Alright, that's our decode of i-80 Gold's latest update. What do you think about their aggressive development plan? Will they strike gold or hit a snag? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more corporate deep dives. And don't forget to join our Discord community linked in the description for more discussions. Thanks for watching. See you next time.